Hi there, Dr. Gary here on the road. We sell dental practices nationwide. Today's topic is when all goes haywire because attorneys and banks screw it up. So wait till you hear this story. Again, we try to give you live action from the street. We feel we're the cops on the beat. We're the reporter from the front lines. What we tell you happened hours ago. We don't have time to go into some fancy studios and wear some fancy suits. No time for that. So, interesting story what happened. But these are real stories. So anyway, before we get into it, as you know, we're in multiple states now. We have 10 employees, including 2 CPA accountants, marketing director, operations director. We have a great team and like 5, I think, development acquisition team members. So we're here to help you. Now, we are available to you 363 days a year. We take off Christmas and Easter. You can reach us from 8 a.m. East Coast time till 9 p.m. Our phone number is 201-663-0935, and our website is dentalpracticeguide.com or nationwidedentalpracticebrokers.com. Just give us a ring if you want to sell your practice, buy a practice, you want to get an appraisal, buyer's representative, seller's representative. We're here to help you. We've been doing this for 13 years. I was a dentist for 25. Done hundreds of transactions, so we can help you with virtually anything. We've been through so much experience to share with you, and we're still learning. We still don't know it all because it's always a surprise, just like today's story. What a screw up this was. But we'll go over it with you. Now, if you think everything you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes, it's not legal or business advice. If you're thinking about selling to one of the big DSOs, they're going through some changes, consolidations, etc. So call us. We can get you. We can get your practice sold. A lot of them are looking for 1.5 million and above, multi-operatory 6 or more. Occasionally, we come across some of them that are looking for $1 million and up practices. Not as much anymore. And but we could guide you. Now, they will often pay our commission, so there's no commission to the seller. Based on certain criteria, there will be no commission. And if you work with myself and my team, and remember, I was a dentist for 25 years, and I have a lot of experience doing this for 13 years of dental practice brokerage, we'll get your legal fees reimbursed upon successful closing based on certain criteria. That's worked really well. Now, what happened this time, what a screw up and haywire this is. Now, you may think all is going well. And again, we were fortunate we had good dental attorneys and a good dental bank, but things still got screwed up. If we didn't have them, just imagine, I could just imagine what would have happened in this situation. Drove us crazy. So as you're approaching closing, this thing was delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. As you're approaching closing, finally they create the closing statement. It's one document that has what the practice is getting, selling for, who's getting paid, what vendors are getting reimbursed, how much the broker or myself is getting paid, the attorneys, their money is getting paid. So everybody who owes everything is on that document. All the debits, all the credits. One document. It's your closing statement. It's similar to to a housing closing statement. A little more complicated sometimes because in dental we have more moving parts. But regardless, it's usually 1 or 2 pages. It defines all the debits and credits. Who's getting paid, how much you're getting paid, how much is owed, what's getting paid out, what the vendors are. One document. All right? So now, document gets created, and you would think, well, the banks and everybody else is going to use this closing statement as the guideline, right? This is your guideline. This is where all the money's going. So, guess what happened? They have the one column of how much money in total the seller is receiving. Below that is debiting out vendors that are owed money. In other words, let's say it's a bank or something. Let's say you had a piece of equipment that you're paying off. They debit that out of it. Then they debit who else is owed money, the broker, the attorneys, and so forth. Maybe utility company, maybe debt owed by the buyer, a seller, to another bank. It's all on there. So you have how much the seller is receiving for the sale of the practice, dollar amount on the top, subtracting out all the debts, everybody who's owed money, right? Okay. And the other column, it says what the buyer has to pay, and has all the credits and debits, the buyer. So it should flow and everything should balance out. And you assume the banks, the attorneys are going to follow this guideline. So guess what happens? I still can't believe this. That's why I say you cannot relax even after the closing. And I'll explain why. So the parameters here are, we happen to have a good dental, very good dental attorney. We happen to have a great, that was for the buyer, a great dental attorney for the seller, and a well-known dental bank. One of the top 3 in the country. But it was a perfect storm of screw-ups. So what happens is, we go to closing, and the disbursements, which means the electronic wires, were coming directly from the bank. Sometimes the wire goes out a day before into the attorney's trust account. The attorney then pays everybody, debits and credits and all that, out of his trust account at the closing. Other times, the bank cuts all the checks or wires all the funds. So let's say that the seller was to receive $550,000 on the top line. And then subtracted out was the broker's commission, the vendors, the banks that are owed money from the seller. That's all taken out. So the top line is the same, $550,000. And then all the debits come out and money is dispersed out to the other people. So the seller winds up with less dollars, obviously, than the sale price. But the bank is still issuing the same dollar amount of the $550,000. It's just that in this situation, the seller of the $550 may only get, let's say, $450 or $475. X number of dollars are going to the attorney, X number of dollars are going to the bank that's owed money, or the leasing company, X number of dollars to the utility company, maybe, X dollars for the commission to the broker. But the top line is still the same amount of money that the bank is sending, right? So what happens? Bank sends all the money to the seller. None of the vendors get paid. The attorney doesn't get paid. The broker, myself, doesn't get paid. So what does that mean? It means that we have to collect our money now from the seller because they have all the money. And none of the other monies that were owed, debits, debts, were never paid. So think about this. The closing occurred, the transfer occurs. So the leasing company, technically, they still have a lien on the practice because they're never paid. They were supposed to be paid off at closing. Or the other bank paid off at closing. They're never paid. So you go through the closing, they're not paid. So that debt or lien on the practice still exists. So now the buyer's in trouble because what he thought was going to be his debt-free, the equipment debt-free, he doesn't receive. The attorneys are owed money. The brokers owed money. Now we have to get our money from the seller who got the big fat check because the distribution on the closing statement wasn't adhered to. I know this is not supposed to happen, but this just happened. This is reality. I don't know if you're going to read these in these articles you read about how, what do they call that? Seamless transition? Yeah, tell me about it. This is a major screw up. I still can't believe it happened, but it happened. So we have to somehow resolve this, and it's getting resolved now. Luckily, we have a compliant seller that's going to distribute the money, we believe, out of their own checking account, because the distribution of the different vendors and professionals that were owed money were never paid. So this is a major screw up. Why didn't the attorneys pick up on this? They should have picked up on it and see what was going on as the money was getting transferred and put a stop to it. But they didn't. And these are two good attorneys. If these were not dental attorneys, we would really have a nightmare. Luckily, the two attorneys knew each other. They had an establishment with the bank themselves. They had relations with the bank, so we all knew what was going on. Now, the bank is, has pie in their face. The attorneys have pie because nobody was paying attention. They didn't pay attention to the closing statement. This rarely happens in 13 years, but it happened. And it was one of those situations where whoever was sending the wires just wanted to get done for the day and get out of there and get the deal finished. So they screwed up. I can't believe how they screwed up. But this actually happened. So now we're trying to unravel it. Fortunately, I think it's going to work out all right. But here's problems that happen just when you think everything's okay. Then if you were one of the people that was supposed to be reimbursed at the closing to pay off a debt, you weren't reimbursed. And you as a buyer, the lender wasn't paid off. So that equipment that you think you own, you don't own. You don't really have title to, because the vendor wasn't paid the money they were owed. That is, their lien wasn't paid off. It's a nightmare. It happens. So you have to watch everything. I was watching everything as careful as possible. I saw the closing statement after it left my hands. I couldn't really do anything. I'm just waiting for everything. And then that's when I heard that the wires have already been sent out. I said, well, I didn't get paid. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean the wires are sent out? I should have the wires same day, at worst the next day. But electronic wire, it's usually same day. You should get it. If it's a little later in the day, the Federal Reserve is busy, yeah, you may get it the next day. But within, 24 to 48 hours, that's it. That's when everything hit the fan. These things happen. Pay attention. We try to give you what's cutting edge stuff. I don't know if you hear this anywhere else. I don't know if they'll tell you about it, but it happens. And we want to give you cutting edge information. What's happening on the street, and this happened. You got to be aware. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hit the button if you want to subscribe. And here we're putting new videos on every week. I think we're close to 350 already. So listen, and hopefully you learned something. And we thank you for listening. Thanks, bye.